let's begin. If you have any questions, you can also type them into.
That's a good question. We could start, Rabbi Fischer, with a question like that. Does it suffice to use kitchen cleaners to render any possible chametz not edible, or do you have to really get every single crumb off the floor and in every area in your house?
So that's a great question. If you have a known chametz that is hard to get to, for sure, putting something that cost a cleaner or something that would make it inedible to ruin it, that would be sufficient. But really, the halacha is to try and remove the chametz, and primarily the idea is because we want to make sure that no chametz gets into your food and ownership. So there are actually two separate parts of the cleaning for Pesach and the cleaning chametz. There's one aspect, as the Torah says, chametz is so severe that you not only shouldn't eat chametz or sell chametz or buy chametz and benefit from it. You can't even be in your possession. It shouldn't be found in your area, in your property. Now, if it belongs to someone else and it's designated in a spot and covered, so that would be fine. But halachically, the halacha is that anything that's in your possession, you have to get rid of. For that checking of chametz, you have to look for things that are of significance. Either it's a complete package or something that you would want to keep, or it is the size of a kazaya, so larger, an olive size. But if it is just crumbs or a half a pretzel that you find under the couch, where when you see it, it's disgusting as it is and you wouldn't want it, the nullification that we say is sufficient for that. And so we say, after we check for chametz and after we burn the chametz, we say a nullification. When we check for chametz, we say any chametz that I didn't find. And when we burn the chametz, we say any chametz that I didn't find, or any chametz that I have, even if I found it, whatever it is, it should all be nullified. So that nullification works. However, it's hard to say that you have a bottle of whiskey worth $100 and I just nullified it and it's worthless, right? Because that's not worthless, and you may actually want it, or anything like that. So that has to actually be removed. That's what the Bedikas chametz, the checking for chametz, is. Additionally, there's anywhere that there's a chance that a crumb of chametz would fall into your food on Pesach. Now, on Pesach, the severity of chametz is such that it doesn't nullify. Whereas normally we say nullification is 1 in 60. So if you had, you were walking by your challah and you had a coffee in your hand and a little bit of your coffee which had some milk in it spilled into your, splashed into your challah. Not that it would taste so great, but in any case, the milk there would be nullified 1 in 60, as long as you had 60 times that bit of milk. Chametz is not so. 1 crumb of chametz can invalidate and prohibit an entire pot of soup. So we're also, wherever food may be found, we're looking to get rid of any of the crumbs so that it doesn't go into your food. So those are the two things that we're trying to do. We're cleaning to find any tangible, real chametz, olive size or package or something that's significant. Additionally, where food may be where it may get into food, any chametz, and cleaning that. So if you're not going to get the crumbs and it's in a shelf over your stove, right? So just spraying some Lysol is not necessarily going to do it, right? Because you could have crumbs that get into your food. Where you talk about underneath the couch or behind the dresser or whatever, that really doesn't need to be cleaned. I mean, spring cleaning, fine, but for Pesach, you don't have to clean that because there's no actual edible chametz there. Now, if you have a 3-year-old who's hoarding their nash into underneath their cabinet, under the pillow, that's where you have to look for that.
Speaking of the nullification, I know that this year is a little bit different, right? Because Pesach actually falls on Motzi Shabbos, so meaning usually we would say the Bittul after Bedikas Chametz on the night before Pesach, and then the next morning after we burn the Chametz. But this year we don't make a Bittul after burning the Chametz because we're still eating Chametz.
That's right, and we're not ready to nullify it.
So when do you make the bittul? Sometime Shabbos morning, or
Yeah. So after so after you eat the chametz, so we'll try and go through some of the order of the day soon, exactly what needs to be done. But once you can no longer eat chametz, so then you're also going to. We don't burn obviously the chametz on Pesach on Shabbos, so we're going to burn it on Friday, and then on Shabbos you take whatever you have, all the crumbs that you have left, and you toss that out. So you're gonna burn it, and sorry, you're gonna flush it down the toilet or throw it out. You have to throw it away in the trash. And so we'll talk about that a little later. And then after you do that, you say the nullification that you would normally do when burning the chametz. So Thursday night, you say the nullification that you normally say when you check for chametz, which is the chametz that I did not find. And on Shabbos, you say the nullification, not on Friday when you burn it, but on Shabbos when you flush it away, you're going to say the nullification for anything that you, whether you found it or not, all chametz that's in your possession. And hopefully soon we'll get a chance to go through all of the order of Friday and Shabbos.
Perfect. There was one person who submitted a question, Michael Hornstein. Thank you for submitting a question. He just wanted to know, I'll read the question here. Is there a problem of storing fruit such as apples and oranges in a plastic refrigerator bin that has not been koshered?
So the koshering or cleaning of the fridge is really not for the typical koshering. When we say koshering, we normally talk about the absorption of flavor in a substance, in a pot, in a spoon, in an oven, and so on. In the fridge, really, it's about crumbs. And as we talk about, anywhere where a crumb may come into your food on Pesach, that's where your concern is. So if you check your drawer and there are no crumbs there, and there shouldn't be any crumbs in your fruit drawer, and you look at it and you say, yep, it's all clean. So then you can have your fruit there. And there are a lot of people that won't eat peels of fruits on Pesach because of what coatings people put on and what they spray on or whatever it is. So they'll peel their vegetables. So then in any case, even if there was some chametz on the outside, it wouldn't be a problem. If you do eat it with the peels, rinse it off well. You want to do that, whereas you always wash your fruit for whatever they spray on or whatever people in the store may have touched it and so on. You especially on Pesach want to wash your fruit well, maybe scrub it down to make sure that it is edible for Pesach. But again, the cleaning of the fridge is because of a crumb that's there from a sandwich or whatever it may be, for the chametz that may be laying around.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions that we'd like to either ask directly or on the chat?
You answered my.
This will probably.
Oh, looks like two people at the same time. I
This
guess
will
I'll
probably be asked later, but.
Okay,
Go ahead,
YAK'NA'HAZ, go ahead. Yeah.
It might be answered later, but to be done eating chametz by 11. I don't know exact right now. Like, are we gonna have? I mean, how's that gonna work with eating challah? Are we all gonna be coming home early for that, or like, what's the process?
Yeah, so I'll go through that a little bit in a moment. Let's get Chris's question and see whether we Pesach that falls on a Shabbos, Erev Pesach that falls on Shabbos, and then we'll jump at that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Tuvia answered my question in part. I know you can't buy eggs during the middle of the week on Pesach, and he also said milk. Does that mean like all milk products, like cheese and butter and stuff? And does it even include like stuff that's kosher dairy?
Right. So the issue with milk, the reason that many say to buy milk before Passover is because the vitamins in milk may or may not be chametz. If you buy it before Pesach, then the vitamins would be nullified in 60 times the milk. Whereas if you buy it on Pesach, it's no longer considered nullified. So that's why, particularly by liquid milk, people have the custom to buy milk, all the milk they'll need for Passover before Passover, out of that concern that maybe the vitamins could be chametz or chametz derived, and therefore would be nullified, prior to Pesach. In regards to cheese, butter, and other things like that, those all require Kosher Pesach certification. So you could, technically buy those during the week of Pesach as well, because they're Passover certified. Whereas regular fluid milk is not necessarily Passover certified, but by buying it beforehand, any potential issues would be taken care of. Of course, if one wants to buy milk on Pesach itself, the Challah Yisrael milk that you can find at Safeway is Kosher Pesach.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris, for that great question. And really, to clarify, just on the concept of things that are certified Kosher Pesach versus those that are not. In general, anything that is certified Kosher Pesach, it means it's done with a special supervision to make sure that no products, byproducts, or even machinery have any contamination of chametz. The classic items that don't have a special Pesach designation, those may be something that could potentially have some connection, but you would be nullified before Pesach, such as milk. If it's on one of the lists as not requiring a Pesach certification, that means that the certifier knows the process, and even though it doesn't have the Pesach designation, they can tell you that there is no concern of chametz contamination, and that can even be purchased on Pesach itself. So that's an important distinction to know, that on Pesach, chametz is not nullified at all, and even things that would have a slightest amount of chametz cannot be eaten that way. And so if there's something that is on a certifier's list as edible, as kosher for Pesach without special designation, that too is kosher for Pesach completely, even though it's not printed. The authorizing kashrus agency is telling you that they know the process and it is okay for Pesach.
In regards to eggs, correct me if I'm wrong, but the issue with eggs is that could be concern of chametz, maybe on the shell or something like that. If one did buy eggs on Pesach, would washing sort of the eggshells off before using them be sufficient?
Yes. The eggs are really, because it's coming from a place, meaning the chicken coop, which is full of grains that the chicken eats, and so it really has a lot of it's sitting in chametz beforehand, and so it's best to get it beforehand so that whatever chametz would be there would be nullified. But any eggs, really, it's best when handling eggs for Pesach to rinse them.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions?
So we have, in regards to this year, especially because of, well, Philip, good question. There's another few questions that came in. I'll go through that as we go through the special halachas of Erev Pesach that come on, that's on Shabbos. And there are many things we do on Erev Pesach, and it's a busy day. And this year, we can't do most of those things because of Shabbos. And so look at it as this tremendous blessing in the ability to come fully rested to the Seder, because you weren't working all day doing the last minute things to get ready for the Seder, because actually you cannot do anything for the Seder on Shabbos. There's a halacha, you're not allowed to be mechin mishabbos l'chol, or even to Yantiv. You cannot prepare on Shabbos for a weekday or for Yantiv. And so there's nothing you can do on Shabbos for the Seder. Anything that you forgot to do Friday, you will have to do on Yontif itself if you can. And so it's worthwhile planning and preparing and having everything set for Shabbos. That's not to say that there aren't some difficulties in making Shabbos on Erev Pesach. So I'll hopefully go through an order and a set of those of the order of what to prepare on Thursday night, Friday, and what mitzvahs we do on Thursday night, Friday, and what to do on Shabbos as well. Just to go back to the question about a kosher, a sippy cup and ice cube trays for Pesach. Ice cube trays do not absorb because they're never really hot. And so you can use from weekday to from all year round for Pesach as well, as long as they're cleaned well. And the same with a sippy cup would be the same. However, my experience with Toddler sippy cups is that they seem to get food everywhere between every nook and cranny in a cup, and they're difficult to clean in any case. So it probably, you'd have to look at it yourself. It is, if you can clean it, it's fine. It doesn't have absorption of chametz. So if you can clean it, fine. But if you can easily replace it, it's probably worthwhile. Charles, about the egg matzah question, I'll get to that as we go through the order. So let's start with Thursday night. Thursday night is really the night before you normally would make Bedikas chametz, checking for chametz. This year, Thursday night, we would do the checking for chametz. And it's in place of Friday night, which is the night before the Seder, which usually we do, but obviously you can't do Bedikas chametz that night. We don't do it by day because you need to do it with a candle and you need to do it when you can focus. And so the Thursday night acts as Friday night. We do Bedikas chametz that night, and we do it with a bracha. And any area that you didn't check and clean well, or even if you checked and cleaned well, but somebody may bring chametz into there, that's what needs to be checked for chametz. So if you spent a week and you cleaned several of the bedrooms, all the bedrooms and the bathrooms, and the only place that chametz exists is in your kitchenette and kitchen, well then that's all that really needs to be checked for chametz. Customarily, we put out 10 pieces of chametz, even in the other areas. Make sure they're in a Ziploc bag or in foil, something that will not leave crumbs around, and then we find those 10 pieces of chametz as well. And we do this custom this year Thursday night as well. I did forget one thing. Thursday morning for the firstborns, anybody has a bechor, which normally fasts, or even if the parent of the firstborn will fast. This year, Thursday, it would be that fast. And Steve Meyer-Roberts is making a siyum, a completion of the Masechta in Shul on Thursday morning at Kosher to exempt anybody that would typically need to fast this fast. And because it's not the correct day anyhow, normally it would be Friday, this year it's Thursday, and it's a customary thing, anybody that misses that siyum can also redeem the fast by giving tzedakah, the value of a day's meals. In any case, but if you have a bechor in your family, you are a bechor, or you're the parent of a bechor, a firstborn, make it to shul on Thursday morning for the siyum, so that you can be exempt of the siyum of the fast. On Thursday night, you do bedika like we do every year, and the selling of the chametz, the rabbi will do on Friday. Which you should get done with the rabbi in advance to make sure that you're included in the mechira, in the sale. And the burning of the chametz, even though you can have chametz the rest of the day, nevertheless, because every year the chametz is burnt by the end of the 5th halachic hour of the day, and so we burn the chametz on Friday within that time. And the distinction between every year is that Thursday night, you're going to say the nullification that we do with the checking of chametz, but Friday day, as we mentioned before, we're not going to say the nullification that you say with the burning of the chametz each year, because that's done on Shabbos when you actually are at the last moments of the permission, the permissibility of Chametz. So Friday, you're going to burn the Chametz in the morning, but you can continue eating Chametz until the next day. In preparation for Shabbos, you want to get as much ready for the Seder. Because as we said, you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos for the Seder. So you can't prepare on Shabbos for that evening, which means that you have to wait until nightfall, until you can say Havdallah, in order to start heating the food and setting the table and getting everything ready. So this isn't practical for everybody, but as a piece of advice, if you can manage this, the best way to organize it is that you set your Seder table on Friday. And this way, when Shabbos is out, the table is ready for the Seder. What about Shabbos? You have 2 meals or 3 meals you have to have on Shabbos. Don't have it at the Seder table, and don't bring your chametz anywhere near there. So you set your table for the Seder, and you eat on the porch if the weather allows it, at a kitchenette, far away, wherever you can. That's where you'll eat your Shabbos meal, and you'll eat the Seder, and you'll have the Seder set and ready to go right after Shabbos. And this way, you save time. You're not as delayed Matzah Shabbos going into the Seder. The other preparations that you really need to do before Shabbos. You want to prepare the charoses, because you're not able to do that on Shabbos. And at night, there are questions of how and when to grate and mix, and it becomes complicated, and another delay of the Seder if you're going to start doing your charoses at night. So you want to do the charoses well in advance. So Friday already you will have your charoses done. The salt water. It's not that difficult to do on Friday, on after Shabbos at the night of the Seder, but it's easier if it's done in advance. Even if you like it warm, you can re-warm it on Yontif, but it's best to make it in advance. The Seder plate components, which is that you need a cooked egg that's roasted, and a shank bone or a chicken wing or chicken polka, whatever it is that you use for your zeroah, which has to be roasted, that you can't do on Shabbos. So you should do that on Friday in preparation, even though, again, that's something you could technically do on Shabbos, after Shabbos, on Pesach. That's going to delay your Seder, number one, because you're going to have to wait until you cook the eggs and roasted your zeroah before you put it on the Seder plate to have it ready, and you can't do it on Shabbos. So if you do it before Shabbos, that'll rush it up. Also, there's another halacha. If you forget to do it, since on Yontif, you're not allowed to cook for after Yontif, so the parts of the Seder plate, the shank bone and the egg, if you're going to cook it that night of the Seder because you didn't do it in advance, you're going to have to eat it on Yontif that same day. So either that night or the next morning, you're going to have to eat it off the Seder plate, and then you're going to have to make another one for the second Seder, for the second night. So and that would, again, delay your second Seder as well. So try and remember to roast your shank bone or chicken wing and make your egg for the Seder plate in advance. The grinding of your horseradish, if you use horseradish for maror, and if you're going to grind it on your own, so that should be done beforehand, and then put it in a container so it retains its strength, its sharpness. The lettuce should be washed and prepared in advance as well. Check them for bugs if you're in a way that you need to check them. So make sure that is done before Shabbos as well, because it's difficult to do on Yontif and it's going to delay your Seder. So all these things are items that you can and should prepare for the Seder beforehand. Rabbi Berzow, you had a question? Or
I did actually have a question. You mentioned about the Zuraya and the shank bone. You're supposed to use a different one each night?
No, only if you didn't prepare it before Shabbos. So therefore, you're cooking it on Yontif. And on Yontif, you're only allowed to cook for its own day. You're not allowed to cook on Yontif for another day.
Right.
And so the one you're roasting on Matzah Shabbos at the first Seder, you're going to eat that day. And the one that, and then because you have to eat it, if you cooked it on Yontif, you have to eat it on Yontif. So then you're gonna have to make another one for the second day. So
but if you do it all
only
before Shabbos,
correct. If you do it before Yontif, then, and so try and remember to do these 6-7 things in advance of Shabbos so that you don't run into any issues. Again, the charoses, prepare it before Shabbos. The salt water, prepare it before Shabbos. The egg and the zarah, the shank bone or chicken wing that you're going to make for the Seder plate, this should be done before Shabbos. The maror, whether you're having horseradish, grind it before Shabbos. You're having lettuce, clean it and wash it before Shabbos. Have everything done and prepared before Shabbos. Also, the candles for the Seder, it's also a delay, right? The more you can have prepared beforehand, set your Seder table, that's all going to speed up that's going to speed up what you have available, the time available right after Shabbos, because as it is, it's going to be somewhat delayed.
Right.
Okay, so that's the preparation that you want to do before Shabbos. There's obviously a mitzvah on Shabbos to have 3 meals.
Talk to you right now.
You have 3 meals of two really lechem mishnah, 2 breads at each one of the meals. So in order to have bread, you want to make sure that you're not going to have any leftover bread on Pesach, because you can't burn it. So you really want to make sure that all the chametz that you're getting rid of, you already have gotten rid of. You've already gotten rid of prior to Shabbos. So you've taken out the trash, and you've put it into either a public dumpster, or you put it or you put it out in the your trash. It would be best if you can put the trash at the side of the road. I know that it's Friday, and and your garbage isn't picked up for another few days. However, it's best if it is at the side of the road, and this way it is hefker, it is ownerless, because that's the law, that your trash at the street is ownerless. If you have a neighbor that you think would be particular about your trash being there, try and let them know that you'll have it there for a few days for Passover reasons. If that doesn't work, you can nullify it by just having it in your trash and expressly stating that it is ownerless. You don't intend for it to be in your possession at all. The bread that you have should be a type of bread that doesn't really crumb that much. Perhaps pita bread is something that doesn't create that many crumbs, or bagels, whatever it is that you have that will not be that crummy. That's what you should have for your lechem mishnah, for your 2 breads. Now, there are some people that have a custom to eat egg matzah for Friday night and Shabbos day as their lechem mishnah. Now, generally, we don't eat matzah, for sure not the day of Pesach, in order to come to the Seder with the delight of having this new mitzvah of eating matzah. And the custom is also from Rosh Chodesh, from the beginning of Nisan, not to eat matzah. However, matzah ashira, which is egg matzah or grape wine matzah, that matzah is, you cannot fulfill the mitzvah with. And because the mitzvah has to be lechem oni, poor man's bread, meaning that it's just simple flour and water. And since you're allowed to fulfill the mitzvah only with regular matzah, what we call matzah that has nothing but flour and water, so egg matzah is not really a part of the mitzvah. So some people have the custom of eating egg matzah for their Friday night meal. In this way, there's no chametz in the house. You have kosher for Passover, kosher Pesach, egg matzah for Friday night, and kosher Pesach matzah for Shabbos day. And then this way you avoid getting into an issue of eating, having chametz in the house. However, the classic Ashkenazi custom was not to eat egg matzah. Follow your custom. However, that is a prevalent custom, not in the Ashkenazi world, not to eat egg matzah at all on Friday. We don't eat it at all on Pesach, and therefore not to have it on Friday night and Shabbos as well. And as such, people will eat chametz, but don't have it in the house. Eat it either on a porch or right near the door where you can easily sweep it away. Eat it over a napkin where you can just fold it up and toss it out. And the rest of your meal you can make kosher lePesach. And so that's an easy way to just get rid of the chametz. Now, you're allowed to toss your trash. You don't have to flush whatever left over of your chametz. You don't have to flush it down the toilet. You could, and some of it you should, because that's a form of nullification of the burning of the chametz, as it were. However, you can also toss it in the trash, and the trash it does count as it does count as a getting rid of your chametz. Preferable to have the chametz in trash in outside cans as opposed to inside cans, even if I can't leave it on the streets. If you mean inside the house, yes, all chametz should be outside of the house in your outside trash cans. If you can't put it at the street side, but it should not be in the house. It should be outside in a way that it's considered completely nullified and ownerless, and you don't want it in your possession. It's outside of the house. So at Shabbos morning at about 11 o'clock, you complete the eating of the chametz, and you're going to at that point you're going to take all your chametz in the napkin, the crumbs that are in the napkin. You're going to flush that down the toilet. If your napkin is too thick and it doesn't go down, so then eat it over a tissue or something, and just flush it down the toilet. And the rest of the chametz, you take it out. Everything that you have from your chametz meal, you take it out and you put it in the trash. But the meal itself can be a Pesach meal. You don't have to make anything that's not kosher for Passover in the meal. And only thing that you have that's chametz is the breads, the two breads that you have for Friday night and the two breads that you have for Shabbos day. We'll get to Suda Shlishit, the third meal, soon. But how do we get our meal done so early? And that was Yochanan's question earlier. And in order to do this, the custom is to daven very early Shacharis on Shabbos, Erev Pesach. And I believe Kosher is davening at 7:45. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's 7:35.
7:35, I think.
7:35. So 7:35, they begin davening, Yochanan, and that's the idea that we start davening early so we can get back home. Rabbi Bratkin says we'd probably be home about 9:15, 9:30. And so you can start the meal with enough time to eat your chametz, have the Kiddush, have a motzi, clean up all the chametz, and then you can continue your meal as long as it's Pesach Dig. You can continue the meal after the time of eating chametz. So you eat the chametz, you wash it up and toss it. Now a few people asked, what about the idea of having rice for your Friday night and Shabbos day meal? So that's a good idea. It's not chametz, it's kitnios, which we don't eat, but we can eat that on Shabbos. And that's not a bad idea. You can make rice, you can make some beans. However, you have to deal with cleaning of that vessel that you cooked it in. So if you're making it in a disposable pan, no problem. You just toss that out together with the chametz. If you're making it in a real pot, that's going to be a chametz pot. So then you're going to have to deal with cleaning that pot and then putting it away for Pesach, Pesach with your chametz stuff. That's going to be a little more difficult to do. Also, what are you going to do with the leftovers? So again, if there's leftovers, you'll just toss it like the leftovers of your bread. So that's a possible thing to do. But then you want to not eat on your Pesach dishes. You want to eat on disposable dishes, which in any case may be good advice to have disposable dishes for this Shabbos. Have a plastic tablecloth over your table and just roll that up after the chametz is done. Toss it all out, and you have no problems. And this is an easy way to have your lechem mishnah, to have your meal, to have your cake, and eat it too. And so you can really have all of your chametz, enjoy the meal, and then toss it and continue with your Shabbos meal. So those are that's an easy way to do the Shabbos meal. It is customary to rinse your mouth out or to brush your teeth after eating chametz, before the time of prohibition of chametz is over. And so you would do that with mouthwash as opposed to toothpaste, because we don't use toothpaste on Shabbos. And you can brush your teeth that way with a mouthwash. At this point, when you flush and toss the chametz, you are going to say the nullification that's said usually at the burning of the chametz, at this point on Shabbos. And at this point now, we're into the prohibition of eating chametz, even owning chametz, and the chametz that you have, you've tossed outside, you've nullified it, you've made it ownerless, and it's not yours, and you're ready for Pesach. There's the mitzvah of having a third meal on Shabbos. How do we do this? You're not supposed to eat a meal on Pesach afternoon, on the afternoon before Pesach, so that we come to the Seder with an appetite for the mitzvah of Matzah. However, we also have the mitzvah of eating Suda Shlishit, eating the third meal. So what do we do? So for those that eat early in the morning, early enough, they can split their meal and eat some of the meal with two breads for the first meal, complete a meal, bench, go for a walk, come back, and then make another meal with two breads for Suda Shlishit for the third meal. However, there are halachic questions about it, and it does not add to the calmness of the home for Shabbos. So I don't advise that. And the Ramah also doesn't advise it in the Shulchan Aruch. It says rather the best way to go about this for Suda Shlishit, for the third meal, for Shal Shudas of Shabbos, Erev Pesach, just eat foods that don't require a meal. So you can have kugel in the afternoon, maybe prepare some Pesach schnitzel that you can just have the kids nibble on, or you will nibble on. You can have fruits, a compote. There's just light foods that will not fill you to the degree that you're not going to have an appetite for the Seder, but enough that it'll carry you through until the Seder, or the eating part of the Seder, and it'll carry you through, and it will also fulfill the obligation of Suda Shlishit, of Shal Shudas, with eating what's in our halacha called Mina Targima, just hors d'oeuvres, light foods that you would eat as Shal Shudas.
Since those foods are, I say, Pesach, is there any issue with eating, something that contains matzah meal or something like that?
Great question. So as long as it is, so you can have a chicken soup with matzah balls, and that would be fine, because the matzah balls, again, they're made into something else. You've added you've added eggs and cooked it into a matzah ball, and even let's say a matzah ball biscotti, a matzah meal biscotti. You can have that with a coffee. I mean, those are things that would be fine, because they're not in the form of matzah, and you could fulfill the Shal Shudas that way as well, by eating something like that, and that's a little more filling. But don't overeat, again, so you're going to have an appetite for the Seder. Thank you for that question, Tovia. Any other questions? Yes, the same with meatballs with matzah meal in it. It's going to be the same. Yes, the question of whether you sell the chametz. That's true for the selling of the chametz is true for the chametz that you have stored away. But the chametz that you're saving for Shabbos, so that actually is not a part of the sale. That's something you want to retain for yourself, and that you have to toss. You have to throw that out, and you have to whatever crumbs and leftovers you're going to flush down the toilet. So that's the part that we're talking about. Of course, if you had some chametz goods that you put away in a closet locked up before on Friday, and you gave the rabbi your contract where he is power of attorney to sell your chametz for you, that's not yours anymore on Pesach, and so for sure that you don't have to toss. That's somebody else's. We're talking about your chametz, and that's the part that you left out of that closet because you want to retain it, because you want to eat some of it on Pesach itself. On Shabbos itself. Okay, so we've now come to Shabbos afternoon. You're having Shalosh Shudas. You can prepare on Shabbos by having a nice nap, especially since the davening is so early and the end of the meal is early. You have a long afternoon where you can nap and prepare for the late night Seder. However, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos to a weekday. So you shouldn't say, okay, I'm going to prepare for the Seder by taking a long nap. That is not the way to go about it. Rather, you say, I'm going to take the opportunity to have a long nap today because it's Shabbos and there's a long afternoon. That is the way to say it. So everybody, there's a long afternoon. Let's have a nice nap.
So if your kids normally don't nap on Shabbos,
so before Shabbos, tell them that we're going to nap on Shabbos because Matzah Shabbos we're going to be up late for the Seder. So we're going to have we have a long Shabbos afternoon. So when do you want to take a nap on Shabbos afternoon? Before Shabbos. This is a conversation on Thursday and Friday. So by Shabbos afternoon, you say, okay, 4 o'clock, you said you wanted a nap on Shabbos afternoon. So here we go. That's what you do.
Okay, good.
When we get to the Seder this year, we hopefully you have it ready as soon as you can, and that you start warming up the food whenever Shabbos goes out. You don't have to have made Havdallah yet to be able to start warming the food and preparing for the Seder. However, you do have to say, if you didn't daven Mariv, and in Mariv we say the Vatodi'enu, the Havdallah insertion in Yontif davening. If you didn't say that, so you say Baruch Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'chol. Blessed is the one who separates between holy and mundane, and that's enough to make the separation. On Yontif, usually we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Kodesh, one who's blessed you Hashem, who separates between one level of holy and the next level of holy, and so that's really what we're saying on Yontif. And then you can start the preparations, even if you didn't say it in Havdallah, either Havdallah in Mariv, in the evening tefillah, you're going to say, you're going to be able to prepare the Seder and do any work that needs to be done. In Kiddush, this year is called YAK'NA'HAZ. It's a lengthy Kiddush with multiple parts, because you're saying Kiddush, which includes the bracha on wine, the yayin, so that's the y for YAK'NA'HAZ, and the Kiddush, which is the Kiddush for Yantif. And then you're including Havdallah. So you're going to say the bracha on the candle, Ner, Havdallah. You're going to say the bracha of Havdallah. And this is unique because it's not a regular Havdallah. This year, because of Yantif, you're going from Shabbos to Yantif, you say Havdallah, where the meaning is, you, Hashem, you give us the separation between holy and mundane, and also between holy and holy, between one level of holy and the other. And so we say, Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. So that's the Havdallah part. And then we say the Shechiyanu. So it's in all of your Haggadahs. In the Haggadah, by Kiddush, there's a part that says, when Pesach falls on Saturday night on Matzah Shabbos, here's what you insert in the Havdallah. Now you have to have a candle on the table to be able to say the Havdallah. So prepare that as well. Now a little bit about Havdallah candles. Customarily, the best way to do Havdallah is to have a candle that has 2 wicks at least, right? And that's why, our Havdallah candles have multiple wicks. It's a greater fire. Typically on Yontif, you can't do that because you're going to take 2 candles and put them together. Then you can't separate them because you can't diminish the fire on Shabbos. So if you have a candle that has 2 wicks that are close enough that they make a single fire, that's the one you would want to use, and then it'll burn itself out all the way to the bottom. Or what you can do is you can take a tea light and you can split it down the middle, and take another tea light and split it down the middle, and then take the wick out of the one and put it together in the other, and then just put the 2 parts of the candle around it. And this way you've created your own 2-wick candle, and that will be your Havdallah candle for the YAK'NA'HAZ, for the Kiddush Havdallah combination that we do this year at the Seder. And then the rest of the Seder is really done in the same way that we do the rest of the Seder every other year. It's just that it may start a little later because you have all the preparation that you can only do right after Shabbos. You can't do it beforehand. So, be wise and do whatever you can in advance. Prepare it from Friday. Set the table if you can. If your setup is such that you can set your Seder table Friday already before Shabbos. This way, I'll be ready right after Shabbos, and you can set up that you have your Shabbos meal in another part of the house or your apartment. That would be the best way to do it if you can. Any questions that I didn't cover yet? So somebody asked about the eggs. So as Tuvia was saying, the eggs can sometimes, we should buy before Pesach. Normally we buy it before Pesach, and then it's nullified, whatever chametz is on it. Our eggs typically come well washed. So thank you for pointing that out. Generally our eggs are not dirty. And so you don't have to be concerned with it. But if it doesn't look washed, or it looks like it has some substance on the outside, it's good to rinse it. Most of our eggs come well cleaned, especially if you don't have your own chickens in the backyard, or you're not buying it from a local farmer. You're actually buying commercial eggs. Those are well washed and not an issue. But just check and make sure that it's not of any concern. Any other questions?
I'm sure. Thank you, Rabbi Fischer. That was great. I'm sure that since Pesach is still a little less than a week away, that questions will come up. And of course, if you have questions, you're welcome to use the WhatsApp. I guess at this point it's called "Is this Heksher okay?" But really, it's a bit broader than that. So if you have any questions, or you can either private message myself or Rabbi Fischer, or put them on the chat, and that's fine. And since we're talking about Pesach, I will just plug that if you haven't done so yet and you want to, so we kosher the JCC today, and Alan Levine is providing kosher Pesach food, and I believe you have until 8 o'clock this evening to put in an order if you would like to do so.
Yasher Koach, everybody. Wishing you a wonderful Pesach, happy preparations, that it should be exciting and meaningful, even though that it is hard work. We know that, but it is such a momentous time of the year and so special. Enjoy the time. Put on some music as you prepare and cook and clean, or some nice shiur, a class that you want to listen to as you do so. And this way you come to the Seder this year, especially well rested and enjoying the specialty and the holiness of this wonderful night. Another question just came in. So when you kosher something that has a residual food residue, so you always have to get rid of the food residue. So you do so by using a cleaner, and you wipe it out and you clean it and so on. But then sometimes there is some markings, like it's stained, whether it's cutlery or pots or pans or oven. you'll have a stain on it and there's no real residue there. It's just a stain on the metal. That is no problem. You can kosher it that way and continue your koshering process however you do.